Hi, this is Mariana Enriquez. I'm very happy to be here in the festival here virtually in the Netherlands, in Amsterdam. Haven't been there for a long time now. And they asked me to talk about short stories. Where to start? I'm Argentinian, which means that short stories were my first uh, reading, essentially, in literature. Because our tradition, I dare say the tradition of what we call the Rio de la Plata or the River Plate, that involves Buenos Aires and Uruguay, uh, which is another country in front of us. Um, it's the tradition of the short story. So it's very seminal and very foundational to every writer that comes from here to read short stories. Of course, Borges is the most famous writer of short stories, and it's a very special, interesting, and modern uh, writer of short stories, in the sense that you never want to really cut your literary relationship with him, because he's someone that wrote early metafiction, early weird. He used mythology in a way that few people have ever or since, certainly, and it's very influential. But I don't think, for me at least, not in a very heavy way like other writers. Then, of course, you have Cortázar, Julio Cortázar, younger than Borges, and also extremely important. Both of them are writers that you read in high school sometimes, or most of the time. And that it really depends on how you are as a teenager, really. If you're a rebellious teenager, you kind of, don't want to know anything, but basically you don't want to be fed literature that it's something that you are obligated to read. But the advantage with Cortázar and with Borges is that even if you rebel against them, it's a tradition that is so cool and is so modern that everything is there. You have ghost stories, you have stories dedicated to Lovecraft, you have stories about witches in neighborhoods, you have this very interesting and influential thing that Cortázar does, that is to do two stories in the same plane, and they intersect, and it's like realities intersect, and all these notions are notions that are very stimulating and very modern. It's not like the realistic short story with a message, right? It's something that blows up your mind, and it's absolutely amazing. So even if you want to resist it because you're a teenager that doesn't want to be fed things when you're in school, something that is there in what they do permeates, and then in time, most of the time, you learn to love it. But for me, most important than that was the love of short stories. That it's a very common thing, especially in the world of publishing, that they always tell you short stories don't work and we want a novel. That's very relative, I think, and that is something to be resisted, if only to not let an industry perpetuate a taste that I don't think is the taste of every reader. There might be readers that prefer long fiction of the time, but they also may be readers that prefer short fiction, because short fiction, and this is something that happens with great, great, great short story writers. Sometimes short fiction, when it's very good, makes the novel something that is absolutely redundant. If you read the short fiction of, let's say, an American short story writer that I love, there's Grace Paley, for example. If you read Grace Paley, you really don't need more. You don't need the novel. This is something that happens a lot because you have everything there. It's really a compact, it's a world that doesn't really need more. That's why some people tell you that the short story, to write a short story, it's more difficult. It's not really. If you have it in your mind very clearly what you want to say, it's a form that is very generous to the writer. And with the very big, important short story writers, let's say another American, because I'm quoting Americans because I read in English, so it's something that is more familiar to me than writers in other languages, and because in English the short story is still very important in the tradition. Let's say someone like Raymond Carver. Raymond Carver is a super minimalistic writer, and you don't need any more than that, because also it's so heavy and it's so powerful that you don't want to know that he told you everything that you need to know about the situations and about the characters. And this power of the short story is something that shouldn't be underestimated for readers or for writers. Therefore, I really reject and get mad when people tell me that it's like a minor genre or something like that. Short story is the genre. Short stories, short stories are what we tell each other, since we are people that tell stories. Short stories is what we do since we exist around the fire in a cave, protecting us from the cold or from the heat, and we are there, and we don't tell novels, we tell short stories, we tell urban legends, we are in the oral tradition, we tell fairy tales, etc. I started writing novels. I don't know why, really. I think for me, I was a teenager when I wrote my first novel. So I think for me, it was a lot about not knowing enough. This is a paradox. I didn't know enough about my characters, so I need them to do a lot of things and to explain them a lot. And when I started writing short fiction, I realized that in the language was everything that I needed to know. And that also made me love the novel, or fall in love back with the novel in a different way, knowing that a novel is not reveling and going on forever about something, but it's a different time and a different mood. I always think about, because I love music, so I always think about short stories as songs, and novels as albums, especially conceptual albums. I mean, with everything, with the cover, with the with the order of the songs, with the changing of the moods. Albums like they used to be before Spotify, when you really thought what was track 5, and which was the track to end the record. And short stories are more like a song that you tune into, and as songs, you remember them forever. As you know, especially you always remember the song that was on when you were in a really beautiful place in a car, when you were on a trip. You always remember the song that you were hearing when you were dancing and falling in love. You also know the song when something really, really tragic happened to you. And to me, I will never forget certain scenes in short stories of, let's say, Silvino Campo or Raymond Chandler or Richard Ford or Grace Paley or Carson McCullers or Catherine Ann Porter or Borges or Robert Aikman is one of my favorite writers. I worship him. And these days, I truly believe that many of the best writers of short stories are best writers in general are writers of short stories like George Saunders, Brian Evenson, Samantha Schweblin. I want to finish saying that to me, the short story nowadays captures a whole life in a moment, or whatever, short or whole life, but it captures a moment with a synthesis and with aesthetic and with a power that we have to give readers. I always think about the reader and what me as a reader too, sometimes what I need, and sometimes I need this punch, this power. The power that a short story has is unlike anything else. I'm writing a novel now, so it's nothing against a novel. There's no against anything. This is just a form that I love, that I learned to love, that I learned to write, and that I wish more people learn to read. So bye. I think this was a bit too long, but bye bye, Amsterdam. I would love to be there, but I can't. And I see you soon, I hope. And I hope you go to my book of short stories too. That is called, the last one is, well, in I say it in Spanish. It's Un lugar soleado para gente sombría. It has a wonderful cover. It's yellow and has a creepy lady on the cover. So, bye bye. This is my house. These are my books, and most of them are books of short stories. Bye. See you soon.